Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted today to be joined by Dawn Ingle, IS Director of Shoesmiths. And this is the second in our series of interviews with senior IT leaders to hear about their career highs and lows, tips for getting ahead, and also the challenges they face throughout their career. So welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Craig.
And just before we get into the main crux of our conversation, as we're recording this episode in early December, meaning Christmas is just a matter of weeks away, I'm still somewhat behind in my Christmas shopping. You know, as we came back together at UK&I Connect, I never started thinking about Christmas until we finished that conference. And how are you faring with your shopping, Dawn?
Yeah, all done, Craig. Wrapped, ready to go.
Really?
Really.
Oh, my word. Oh, God, now you're making me feel really, really bad. So, talk about unprepared against completely organised. That's immense. Well done. Well done. Okay, so back to business. Don, it would be great if you could just start by giving us a quick intro to Shoesmiths and your role at the company, if you could.
Yeah, okay. So Shoesmiths is a UK law firm. We've got 13 offices across the country, 1,500 employees, and we use a variety of systems. And my role at Shoesmiths is the IS Director.
Oh, wow. And so if we now go back to the very start, how did you get into IT and, how did you end up in the field of SAP?
Well, that's a long time ago, but I'll dust off the grey matter. I did a financial economics degree at university, and I left uni and I went to work for a manufacturing firm doing accounting. Um, and I actually really wanted to be in the police. So I went through all the interviews
Okay.
for the police, and they said, yeah, you can come, but go away for a year and do something different. So I carried on with my job in accounts. And about halfway through the year, I got seconded to France on an SAP project as a finance user. So I went and lived in France as a finance user on an SAP project, big four country project back in the day, and it was R3. And never looked back from then. So from there, I moved on to become a developer and then moved through the ranks. So that's where it all started. And I never went back to the police.
So police, long and distant memory now.
It
I
certainly
must
is.
ad- I must admit, when I was 21, which is many, many moons ago now, I actually looked at joining the police myself. It's quite interesting. The we're both in this SAP world now, and both looked at initially at the policing world. Weird. So, how did you land your current role?
So I've done a number of roles through my career, mainly around project management of SAP roles. I've been fortunate enough to travel the world doing that. But I have got two children, and about 8 years ago, I got the opportunity to take up the role at Shoesmiths, which meant no travel, so being at home with my kids. I went there to deliver an SAP project that had been around for a while, so we put that live. And then I've been promoted through Shoesmith then. So I was the application manager following my SAP manager's job. And then about 18 months ago, the IS director left, and I had the opportunity to go for the role. So I was interim for 6 months, and then I took the role on permanently at the beginning of this year.
Oh, excellent! So you liked it so much, you took it on, and they liked you so much they gave it to you. Oh, congratulations!
Thank
Well
you.
done. And how big is your team?
Yeah, I've got a fairly large team. So overall, the team is about 77 people,
Wow.
um, and they cover all aspects of IT. So help desk, infrastructure, networks, and then development. And then I've got my SAP teams as well. So the SAP teams are about 12 people.
Oh wow! So it's quite a large landscape then of the different, sure, different applications, different platforms, infrastructure, etc.
Certainly is.
If you talk to a lot of people, you probably don't really associate SAP with the legal sector, perhaps. And so what role does SAP play in Shoesmiths' overall IT and business strategy?
So SAP is starting to become more prominent in legal, but you are right, it's not really out there. We use it for what we call our practice management system, which means we use it really for finance, um, invoicing, purchasing. So really that very much core back office functionality. And yeah, we use BW, we use dashboards. So it does drive our our it drives the business. It's the back end that keeps the business going.
Okay. And just on that point, we spoke in an earlier podcast, didn't we, about your move to S4 HANA, the latest iteration of SAP, taking, if you like, your digital core into the future of the Shoesmiths.
Yeah, that's right. And we took a very much an approach when we did our S4 HANA upgrade about going with just doing it as a technical upgrade. And now we're starting to utilise the more sexy, if you like, front end, the Fury opportunities. In fact, we're just in the process of upgrading to the latest version of Fury so that we can utilise more of that.
Oh, excellent. And so what are your future plans then for SAP?
That's hard to say, if I'm honest. We are in the process of bringing up another company code, which always takes a lot of time. But we're looking to try and utilise more of the finance functions that we don't utilise now. So more of the credit control piece, which we're not utilising to its full potential now, and really looking at the user experience. So at the moment, using that raw SAP front end is particularly with lawyers is very clunky and difficult. So we're really looking at how can we improve that user experience, and a lot of that will come through development of Fury.
Okay. And if we look at challenges, I suppose, in the IT space, what's been your biggest challenge that you've recently faced, and how did you overcome that?
So sort of the back end of last year and early this year, the firm decided to do a joint venture. And that joint venture meant splitting out all of our systems, so not just SAP, all of them. And it was a fairly limited well, it was fairly limited. We had fairly limited requirements, but we knew what we needed to do, and it all had to go big bang one weekend. So it was hugely challenging because we had a shed load of work to do. It was hard because we'd never separated out systems like that. And the weekend that we went live was 24/7 to try and get all of that live. Um, what was great was by lunchtime of the Monday, when we went live, everybody was up and working in some capacity, but it was a huge challenge. We now manage that system through a managed service agreement. So again, that's quite a different way of working to how we've worked before. So yeah, that it was very challenging. It's a very small team, very limited knowledge about how we were going to do it and what we are going to do. Changing priorities meant that it wasn't without its challenges, but it was achieved.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. At least you managed to get over that hurdle and climb over that wall. Very, very good,
Correct.
good. And obviously, we're still living through this pandemic and some latest kind of restrictions announced last night from the Prime Minister. And what challenges has the pandemic posed for you in your day-to-day job?
So what's been difficult for us last year, like everybody else, come March, we had to get everybody working from home. And that wasn't without its challenges. We got everybody home and working, but we had to try and work our network to help everybody so that they were getting the best experience when they were working from home. Of course, then some people started to come back to the office sort of midway through the year, and then we were trying to deal with that hybrid of some people at home, or a majority of people at home actually, and a handful of people in the office. Um, And now we're trying to enhance that experience. So we will be going with a hybrid policy. So now we need to make sure that whether you're in the office or at home, you're getting the same experience. And actually, with networking, we're pretty much there with that. But things like video conferencing, we don't have all our rooms set up for video conferencing, for example. So if we're on a Teams meeting and there's more than two of us in the office, we probably still have to do it at our desks, which is counterproductive. So there are challenges that are still coming through, but the pandemic has introduced these challenges that we're now trying to overcome.
Okay. And do you feel you're succeeding?
Yeah, we are getting there. Everybody can work wherever they are. It's just those bits around the edge that will enhance the experience that we're working on now.
Good, good, good. And you know, if you have any SAP related challenges or issues and you require help, where do you go for help?
So as I said earlier, I've got quite a big team, and the team are actually very knowledgeable. So my team will start investigating any issues that we might have, and we'll do the same as probably everyone listening to this would do, which is firstly Google. Once we've done that, and we'll probably, if we're still stuck, we reach out. We have a partner, so we'll reach out to our partner, and then ultimately, if that can't get resolved, then we will reach out to SAP. But yeah, that's generally how things move through.
And obviously, how would you rate the level of support provided by software vendors, IT partners, etc.? Do you feel there are any perhaps areas for improvement at all?
Yeah, so our experience of our partners is sometimes they're brilliant. We were using a partner recently, we have for 3 or 4 years, and the basis support is absolutely second to none. So I think partners have their areas of expertise and their areas where they're not such experts. If I go back to when we upgraded to S4 HANA, we were fairly early adopter and there wasn't a huge amount of experience out there. So when we were trying to use a partner, actually they were learning on the job in the same way that we were, so we weren't really getting the benefit. I think probably that's changed now as more and more people have gone to partners. More and more people have gone to S4, so partners are much more experienced in it. But I think there are areas where partners aren't always experienced, and one partner perhaps isn't the right thing for everything.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, finding the right partner, the right specialism for you and your business, very,
Correct.
very key. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where do you see our last conversation was at our UK Connect conference last week, and what do you see the role of user groups in this, and how important you feel they are?
I think it's hugely important, just for connections for a start. So you have a support around you. I think that's great. Training, learning about what's coming through from SAP, because SAP themselves aren't generally that great at sending through marketing material and so on. And a lot of the case studies. So I've been to quite a lot of your events for a particular topic, and actually hearing how another firm has used it, even if it's not relevant for your business, I think just learning about it from a real life case study is really important. So yeah, massive part to play in how we move forward, and giving ideas of how we take SAP forward.
Oh, excellent. I just want to touch on something while we're talking about that as well. And I don't know whether you had the opportunity to attend, but we kind of launched our Women in SAP community at the conference. Did you manage to attend any of those sessions?
I didn't attend any of those sessions, but I'm hugely passionate about that. I was on a panel about 3 or 4 weeks ago about women in IS. So not necessarily about SAP, but it was generic about IS or IT. Yeah, I'm hugely passionate about getting involved in things like that. So I will definitely be looking to do some of those things going forward.
Oh, good, good. It just was interesting. Are we doing the right thing here? Are we going down the right route? It seems to have been very popular, and we have a good team that's working on that. So hopefully, there's a lot more to come from that in the coming months.
I think it's hugely important, and you'll remember, Craig, that I went to the executive lunch and it was very short on women there,
Yes.
and I think it's massively important of how we bring more women into into SAP or IT in general. I was fortunate enough to go and talk at my old school recently. Um, and at the end, one girl came up to me and she was hugely enthusiastic about my talk and wanting to get into IT. And actually, if I make a difference to one girl coming into IT, then that's all it takes. So yeah, really, really important.
That is absolutely fantastic, and it is just that making that difference, even for one person, it matters so much.
Yeah.
That's lovely. That's lovely. And throughout your career, you've been involved in a number of global ERP and CRM projects. What would be your top tips to ensure such projects run smoothly?
Um, I think there's lots of top tips. I think the first one is make sure you know your scope and you don't allow scope creep. It's very easy for things to start to run away with you, and inevitably, even if you get scope creep, you generally don't get longer to do it. So that will be a problem. Um, Make sure you have a good plan and understand the requirements. And then test, and more testing to make sure that it actually delivers what you want. And then finally, communication. Make sure the team know what they're doing and make sure that people know what they're getting, because without that, you will never ever succeed. People need to understand and be taken on the journey.
Thank you. Some good tips there for everybody. And just on the flip side of that, other than what you mentioned there that you should be doing or doing right, is there anything that organisations should avoid doing?
It sort of is it's a flip of what I've already said. So avoid scope creep. Try and make sure that you know what you're doing and stick to that rigidly, or replan so that you deliver what you want. Um, yeah, I think it's hugely lots of projects fail for lots of reasons, and often it will be something different. So avoid it. I think if you follow the tips, then you won't go far wrong.
Yeah. Good. And it's a very important area. I know we've actually done a podcast on the subject in its entirety and that, and we run in sessions at our recent events because it's a crucial area. You spend so much on these projects and not getting it right. That planning element that you mentioned there, what is the saying? Failure to plan is planning to fail, or whatever it may be.
Correct.
But it's so true, so true. You've got to put that effort in, that time into, and do the things right. So thank you for that. And as we're coming towards the end now, if you looked into your crystal ball, what do you think will be the biggest changes that we're likely to see in IT? And I'm going to say the next 10 years, but then think to myself, to be perfectly honest, the huge changes we've seen in the last 20 months through the pandemic have been enormous in that short period. So, I mean, I might be asking you to stretch a little bit there when I say for the next 10 years, but where do you see changes coming?
So in probably perhaps not 10 years, but shorter than that, the collaboration platforms that we're seeing, the Teams and the Zoom and those sorts of things, they are going to become inherent in everything that we do for sure. We've already seen that to a certain extent, and I think they will just get embedded into more of what we do. Um, I think we'll see much more advanced in robotics, automation, AI, all those good things. And I think again they'll be implicitly in a lot of the things that we do. So whereas now it's sort of you know when you're using it, I think it will be very much inside what we do. Um, I think all the exciting things like cryptocurrency, driverless cars, all those will come to fruition during that period as well. So I think it'll be a really, really exciting time for IT. And as you quite rightly say, the last 18 months we've seen, things move forward what probably would normally take 5 years. So we'll see what the next, so 10 years is really perhaps 20 years. So yeah, that's quite a scary prospect. But I think, there's lots of things that will be a very exciting change, and we'll see lots and lots of, as I say, like driverless cars. How exciting will that be?
Yes, very much so. It will be quite interesting once we get that right, and then I suppose you are literally working from anywhere because you're able
Yeah,
to sit on your laptop in a car while you're being driven.
correct.
Just on that automation piece, if I may, and I do think it is a crucial point. And there's a lot of people that will think, the more we're automating, the more we're involving robotics and process automation removes the need for people, and perhaps people will lose their jobs because of this. But of course, then on the other side, and possibly this is where I lean, in that if we're automating the repetitive processes and tasks, it frees up the human element, if you like, the people, to look at the more creative side, perhaps a more strategic side, and how we go forward. Where do you sit there?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that using automation in the right way in order to free up people to do the more interesting stuff and to analyze and get better results is where we should be going. There is a flip side to that, though, that if we automate all those sort of simple processes, actually, how do people learn? Because most of us started by doing something simple
Yeah.
and repetitive. So how do you bring those people coming into this industry, or any industry, if I'm honest, how do you develop them if they don't start from those simple repetitive tasks? So I think there's a balance somewhere, to make sure that we have an opportunity for people to come into the industry and still learn. But some of the jobs that we have today wouldn't have been around 10 years ago, and there'll be new jobs around 10 years from now that really are just a thought in someone's mind at the moment. So yeah, I think there'll be huge developments. I think security particularly will see the biggest developments in that area. But yeah, I think, as I say, I think there's room for it, but we just have to be mindful of making sure that we fill the void with something else.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point, Dawn. And on learning, and somebody actually coming in and doing the repetitive processes. Also, when you have that new person joining the business and doing those processes, they're taking a fresh look, and that's how we improve processes, because they'll see areas of improvement. This could be a better way of doing that, etc., etc. And we need to have that continuous improvement, really. Otherwise, no individual develops, and the organisation doesn't develop in that way either. So, Dawn, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you have too. And
I have, thank you.
hopefully, great, great. And hopefully all of our listeners have too. So thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. And as this is our final podcast episode of 2021, we'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. And start with you, Dawn. All the very best to you. I hope you have a wonderful festive period. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.